Hi, I'm Sark. I'm in software engineering. This summer I worked at Shopify, and then last term I worked at Kit, which is another social platform.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey. I'm in ACS, and last term I worked at Apple.
Cool. My name is Evie. I'm in for ACS, and I did engineering after Comfort at Google twice. And then I worked at Khan Academy, and last term I worked at a startup called Socratic in here.
Hey, I'm Kumar. I'm 2A Systems. Recently worked at Shop of Jordan in the fall. Before that, I was working at TD in the Innovation Lab. Before that, I was working in Berlin for a startup. And then, what else? Oh yeah, and then consulting software in my first co-op back before that.
I'm Leon. I'm in 4P software, and I've done 6 co-ops so far. A couple places. The last one I was working was at Google in Waterloo. I'll go into what he does later. But yeah, I think we're going.
Can't follow that. I've not been to Cali. My name is Carly Nyman. I work for Cooperative Education and Career Action.
Alright. So it's going to be a kind of Q&A thing. Feel free to just raise your hand and ask a question if you have one. And we just have some questions here prepared. So starting off with Waterloo Works. Or mine, almost the same thing. Should I try to find references? And if so,
what do you mean by references? You mean references as in I refer him to Shopify, or references as in I'm applying to Shopify and Shopify says, hey, do you have any references?
second one, yeah.
Oh, I've never been asked for references. Maybe other people have.
I think for a lot of government positions, a lot of security issues, I've enough references where if you're going for like a government position and they have a security clearance, you'll be required references or people who've known you for at least 20 years to vouch for you.
I've had been asked references for from a job standpoint of are you good to work with? Like we interviewed you, but I mean interviews don't necessarily measure well enough whether you're going to be a good employee. So we want to talk to someone that you've worked for before, so they can tell us more about how you work. And so once you already had a job, it's easier if you can just talk to your employer before. But I was also asked for references a couple times, I think, or maybe I just prepared them when I was in my week, and I just put down like the non-technical jobs I had in the past, or like a t-shirt that I do a lot about my work ethic. And if people ask and you want someone to vouch for you being a good person, then you just reach out to whoever knows that best.
I was got asked for only once, which was my first job, and then I think it's always nice to have someone in hand, just in case they ask. For me, it was the case that I didn't have much more experience. If I had none, it was my first co-op. I do really think that my record really made a difference from 5 hours later.
All right. So this question is for those of you guys who worked at. Oh yeah, you can answer.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, so in my experience, the answer is no, because for a multi-type job, you only need references as part of the background check. So that's after they decide we want to hire you. And then they just want to make sure that you're not a criminal, kind of lying on your resume. And so they ask for references. And usually you won't even pick for the references, they say. Put references of put the contact information of where you worked last time. So if you want to call them and verify if you actually worked with them. So it actually doesn't really matter. I don't think it's for anything. Yeah, it's mostly just you have to do on the interview. And unless you asked earlier, ideally if someone who's working at the company or who knows the recruiter could refer you, sounds better. But if you're just applying for a job, then giving that person a piece of paper listening to references, I think, isn't very useful, and usually people won't do that.
One more thing about the thing that I said where someone actually wanted to know before they made their final decision. It was after my interview. They were pretty sure. They just wanted to check. I told those people that the company were going to call and be like, hey, remember when I did these X, Y, Z great things? Talk about those. And that was really helpful. And then when they gave me the offer, they were like, yeah, the people that I talked to, they said you were really good at X, Y, Z things. So I was like, yeah. I know. I told them to say something. I mean, it's true.
All right, so this question is for those of you guys who looked at Cali jobs. So how do visas work? So like if you're not an American or Canadian citizen, how would you get a visa to work in Cali or US?
So to my knowledge, I'm not that expert on the subject, but if you're not an American citizen, then as an intern, everyone has to get a J1 visa, whether or not you're Canadian or not. I think it might be easier to get a J1 visa if you are Canadian, but anyone can technically get a J1 visa. And everyone needs it if you're not an American citizen. So you don't put the visa. That's the American PR.
You apply not through Waterloo Works for some reason. If you're applying to job outside or maybe you're on a co-op, make sure that you ask that question early on if you sponsor visas, because if you get to the end and they're like, you have a job, and you're like, oh, you sponsor visas, and they're like, oh, nah. That's like a whole bunch of time I just wasted. So it's good to ask. If it's through Waterloo Workstation, already have that set up, because I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to just say they'll hire you and then not give you a visa.
That's true.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm going to answer the people who, for the people who are not Canadian. I'm an international student from China. So visa process is more complicated. So after most for Canadians, you just need to form DS 2019, and that's it. They can go into the United States with their Canadian passport because it's a visa exempt country. For those who are not, which I still believe includes China and India, you have to book appointment with either the consulate or the embassy. The consulate is in Toronto. And then usually by the time you can book your appointment, it's during the final season. So the timing is really critical. Like I had time, I almost missed exam for this, and then I have to fly to Ottawa and fly back all in the same day to make sure I make it to my exam. But it's definitely worth it. And then they will ask you some questions. It's like, okay, what are you doing there? And then you say, I'm going to the train. Don't say you're going for work.
It's a training visa. Not
It's a training visa. You're not working. It's actually a fun story to tell. So the first time I went to the consulate, the culture visitor people screw up my paperwork. It says on my DS20 that I'm not getting paid, and then they told me I do volunteer. I was like, no, I'm getting paid volunteer. I sent another paper. It's like, oh, your paperwork's all messed up. And I went to a panic mode, right? Because if I fail the interview, I'm definitely not going to make it work. I told me, we will get a visa anyway. Just make sure you talk to them later. Yeah.
Wow.
I think I can talk about Europe together as well. Yeah. So with Berlin, was actually pretty interesting. So with visas from Canadian standpoints, working in Europe, it's actually not too hard. I didn't have a visa when I went there. As soon as I landed, I booked an appointment 2 weeks after, and then got my official work visa. But since I was sponsored by the company there, it worked out. Another co-op friend of mine, it was more tricky for him. He actually couldn't get his work visa because he wasn't from Canada. But because Germany and this country had some agreement, he could work in Germany for 180 days before getting deported. So he just worked for 180 days and worked remotely for the last month. Which should work.
One more thing is if you're going to California and not a Canadian, chances are you are subject to the special 2-year residency requirement. That means that you have to return to your home country for the period of 2 years after you graduate before you can accept a full-time offer from the States. That could be a problem if you want to continue your career in the States. You can use a lawyer to strike down that requirement, but you still have to go through the next H-1B process, which is getting to decrease the requirement. This year, I believe several companies have decided not to sponsor any for the H-1B process. Because if you graduate from the U.S. university, you get a period of what's called a OPT extension, which allows you to work in the States while you apply for H-1B. For us, it's much harder. So it's something to keep in mind when you try to study the job right here. I'm choosing Canada.
Speaking of Cali jobs, how many do you think an average first-year student should apply to?
All of them. Count your bus.
Yeah, not all of them.
Depends on the first year.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on the first year. I think the first year themselves will know themselves well enough that, if you can see yourself working at a Cali company, It's hard to gauge, but like I would say definitely first year, don't like apply to all college jobs. Like, that's just that's just a bad decision. If you're like insanely like good at whatever you do, then like maybe apply to like 30, 40. But that's like if you're like really certain. Definitely don't apply to all. But for the most part, what applies to most first years is like for the most part, most of your jobs should be in Canada that you apply to, and maybe like a few college jobs or jobs in the States or elsewhere. I think that makes sense.
I have 2 comments. One is that I didn't see myself working in California for my first term, and then it just happened to end up that way, and that's just because I just decided to apply. So definitely apply to some, especially if it's a job that you're interested in. But not all of them. Second, it's important that you're interested in the job and that you're not just applying because it's in California. I think that this whole Cali or bus thing is like kind of ridiculous and like kind of overrated. So like if you have a choice between a job that's really interesting that you'll like learn a lot about stuff and it's in like Toronto, and then some like startup that won't pay you enough money to pay for your rent in California, like don't go to California unless you think that you're like actually gonna like learn things and like grow. And it's like there are a lot of great opportunities there, but it's not like the be all end all. Anyway, just want to say that. It is like great.
There are people, I definitely know people who went to California and ended up hating it.
It's not for everyone, but it's definitely cool.
It's high barriers.
Alright, so the next question from our question pool is, how do I negotiate for the salary? So like, I'm not sure if any of you guys have done that before, but how do you do that?
Yeah. How do you negotiate salary? It depends on like the perspective of you. Like, if you're just being like, if you're just trying to like get more money just to get more money, it doesn't really make sense. Because it's just like, hey, like I'm an intern, but I want to be like, don't do that. But if they're paying you like a good amount, but because of circumstances or because of relocation or some other situation that you can't require more money just to like be at the part, then negotiate. I negotiated for most recent one, which is the European company. Europe doesn't pay as much. So if you apply for European companies or Asian companies, don't expect salaries to make you $10,000. Those salaries are like, yeah.
My part is that in Europe, they pay for your education more, so they expect you to have more money, whereas in the US, the tuition is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they think that you need all this money, whereas our tuition is not really.
And like with Europe as well, they expect you to be going. If you do the co-op, they expect you to come back. So most interns who I was working with Europe were at that group for very strict. So they go to school, come back, and by the time they graduate, they'd be working full time. So yeah, so then it's sad where like they don't understand how our system works. So explain to them, hey, like, yeah, you're paying me this much, but I need this much money. Then it's a fair argument. So negotiate if you need to. Don't negotiate if you want to.
I just want to say that I would recommend that don't worry too much about negotiating your salary, because in most cases you can't. So normally, like for Canadian jobs that hire frequently, they usually have like fixed hourly pay for your first year, second year, and so on. So in those cases, then usually they won't let you negotiate just that. Most American companies might just pay like one salary for all of their interns. And it's usually, and they might have like intern 1, intern 2, and intern 2 if you're a grad student or you return there at your next internship. But usually they're not that flexible, and like they have like fixed hourly pay for everything. So yeah, it's kind of hard to negotiate as an intern.
Especially for a first year, it's kind of weird.
And first year, I would say don't do it.
Yeah.
I've negotiated later on. Like if you make a certain amount of money and then you're going to work for like a similar company and they're offering you less, it's like totally reasonable, I think, to go out there and be like, hey, by the way, like I made more last night. If you like happen to have the resources for it, it was like I would appreciate being continue to be compensated that much. And especially if you just sort of like it's not your priority, but it's just like I think that would be nice and leave it up to them whether they want to do it or not. I think it's a little bit harder when you're doing Waterloo work because it's like this weird thing where you're like already matched, so you can't say it, like. So it's trickier because you already have the job, but you can always just let them know, and if they have your best interest in mind, then I'll certainly be willing to do whatever you guys.
Oh, and if you don't want a job that you're like interviewing first because you kind of like fucked up, ask for a raise during the interview and they won't appoint you. It's a good trick. So if you don't want a job, just do that. Yeah, just feel like so.
But I think that it's a good idea to know what interns, like relative to you, are making like in your year or in the place that you're working, so that if you end up making a lot less than that, or you feel like you're working, you have an idea of like what's reasonable to ask for. And this all applies like it's probably not fair for an internship, but like as you.
I guess just from the co-op perspective, two things I wanted to say is definitely along the lines, like for the first year, it's risky because negotiating is it's all about leverage, right? And if you don't have, that strong work experience that you gain as you go through co-op to use as part of your negotiation, it becomes really hard. And then the second point is we've seen co-op students lose offers from aggressive negotiations and negotiating improperly. So yeah, if you're not sure, just like the advice here, it's do it if you need to, not because someone told you to do it.
Like those guys don't have to to that stuff.
Yeah.
Then I'll talk about like what you should negotiate. I'll tell you about like how you should negotiate if you plan to. I have successfully negotiated before, but like she said, the most important thing is leverage. Like what can you bring to the company? And that's part of it. The other thing is what if you look at the company, who else can I think? If you have a competing offer, that's what most people use to start the negotiating process. So like they bring this much, and then you simply match them up, definitely join your company, things like that. And then sometimes it's just really neat things. It's like I'm coming to this company and living very expensive. Maybe they may not provide a raise in salary, but they might help with cost of competition. And another important thing is that if you work very hard, if you do well job company, you might get a raise in it. Like I've seen a couple of while we were doing it, they did not negotiate, but they end up making more than they started signing up. So always keep trying. If you have negotiated at the beginning, you can up it.
Last one of these Waterloo works related question, unless anyone wants to bring it up. Are cover letters ever a good idea?
Okay.
Can I just start by saying something? So one major change from Waterloo to Waterloo Works from Jobline is that if an employer asks for a cover letter as part of your application, you have to include one or the application won't go through.
So it used to be that sometimes you could still apply for
Yes.
not a cover letter, and you could still get the job.
Just thought I should speak it.
So
that's interesting. Sorry.
So my perspective, and so I've talked to recruiters about this, and generally what they say is that if your cover letter is a very good cover letter in the sense that it demonstrates your passion for the job, then it's a good thing. It's usually a good thing to write a cover letter. But if you were like, oh shit, I have to apply for 50 jobs on JobMine, I better make a cover letter template and Control V 50 times, then it is very bad. So if your cover letter looks like it wasn't made out of passion for you wanting to get that job, it's not usually going to help you get the job. But if you really want to work at this company and you think if you just give them a resume, they might throw it out, then you write the cover letter which is like, hey, I have this experience, this makes me a really good candidate for the job, and I really love doing this thing. It's like super awesome, then it's probably helpful. I generally wouldn't advise doing that 50 times.
Don't do it.
Probably
It's
don't
way
love
too much
50
time.
jobs that
Don't
much.
do it.
Don't do that. But
In my experience, it's like I never use a template just because I've tried using a template before to write a cover letter, and then even if you change a little bit of the structure of the template a bit, even then when you use a template, you start on a premise that's kind of geared towards just fitting in that content into wherever that template wants you to do so. So for me, I just don't keep a template, and when I see an opportunity to write a cover letter, if they ask for one, or if it's a company I really want to work at, or if they have some sort of niche qualification that I happen to have, and really want to make clear to them, because they're all going to be this right cover letter, then I'll just write it from scratch and kind of write it from the heart, and it'll usually be informal and kind of be directed towards the person reading it, in terms of more of something of a conversation starter, rather than some kind of like formal letter that they'll just kind of be bored reading.
So cover letter usually should be things that aren't in your resume. So you want to sell yourself, and you also want to show that you're interested in a company. So you want to talk about why your skills are special to the company, and also why you really care about the company. But if you're mostly saying things that are already in your resume, then that's just like duplicating information that they already see. So you want to think about the kinds of things that you can show about yourself and why you're a good fit that like isn't super clear from reading the resume, and then that can like inspire the kind of things you want to talk about. So that's one thing. Don't write them for all companies, only write it to ask. Oh, and if you're emailing an application, so if you're not in co-op, then you might be like emailing someone to apply for a job. And then the email that you write, that's your cover letter. So that's where you sell yourself. And you would like attach your resume and you go, this is something about me, this is why I like you. Please respond to me soon, hire me, thanks, bye. And that'll be a possible in your email. And then, so keep that in mind too for interview.
I think just going to top Chris' point where if it's not a good cover letter, it actually goes against you. I've seen really, really bad cover letters, and after reading that, you just don't want to look at the resume. It's like I think you guys.
If it's not genuine, they just
no,
don't.
like even if it's really bad English, like it's like I've seen like this is because we're in CS and engineering, but like I've seen some really badly worded cover letters, and it just kind of just like I don't know, it just doesn't work. So if you want to write a cover letter, be sure it's like try to get some advice maybe, or write one, get some feedback, and then send it out.
Google like tech cover letter and like read a couple and like get an idea from each one.
And
Don't copy them.
And just make sure your grammar and like spelling is on point. Please. Yeah.
He's got the right employer's name.
Yeah.
And or job title.
Yeah. This is why you don't have a template.
Yeah.
Start from scratch. And attach the right one.
Spread. That'd be a project somewhere. Carlo or General add a few projects and send them the letter. Okay, guys. Whoever needs a project, that's your first project.
Alright, so before we move on to our next segment, are there any questions from the audience or the live stream, if there are questions, regarding Waterloo Works?
There was one question from the live stream.
Alright.
Just the Sika panelists. How many applications can we have in the first round? Is it 50 or 75 or unlimited?
Yes. So technically, well, the way Waterloo works now with the application is that for those of you who were in JobMine, you'll remember the rolling application. So when you canceled an app or you were rejected from a job, your app number went down, and then you could use that application again. In Waterloo Works, that won't happen, so we've built in a buffer of 25 extra applications. So technically, 75 is the limit, 50 is the recommended number for definitely going through for that. No, so that's in the first. So within the core process, there's the 2 rounds, first round and second round, or continuous round. In the first round, there's 2 postings. Between those 2 postings, you have that limit. In the second round, your app limit increases to 99. And that's totally new, like a new gift of application. So there's 2 different limits.
Too many plus.
Too many.
Too many plus. Oh, plus.
We got, yeah, we got another question. What's the difference between the first and the second round?
Employers that didn't get their app posts on time.
Yeah, so there's a few things. So jobs in the second or continuous round, sometimes they are employers that don't get matched with a student in the first round. Sometimes they're employers that miss the deadline to post a job in the first round. And we have a large number of employers that actually prefer posting in the second round because they get, it moves a lot quicker. So they can end up getting matched with a student within a week rather than waiting the month and a bit to find out. So there's a few reasons, but I would say the majority tend to be new jobs.
What about the two postings during the first round?
Yep.
What's the difference?
So same thing, but more so, like less in the second posting will be reposts. There may be some from that first posting where employers maybe didn't get a good number of positions that they want to repost to expand their applicant pool, but usually it's just so we can divide the large number of jobs up between two postings. There's no real, we're not saving the second one for any special reason.
Any questions? All right. Oh, one question. All right.
When is the second round?
Wednesday's round? The continuous round?
Second round.
Yeah, yes, they're the same thing.
Oh.
So the continuous round starts in March. Yeah, so the first round will start on January 16th. Postings open. They'll continue until the 24th for the first of the two postings within the main round. The second posting of the main round will open on the 27th and go to the 31st. So you've got, remember those 50, 75 apps then, and then interviews will take place in February for the whole month except for reading week. And then the main match, you'll get your results, the outcomes of your interviews from February, beginning of March, that first week. So rankings, you'll get to submit your rankings. You'll have a weekend and a bit to submit your choices, and then you'll find out the results from the main round. And then on the 8th of March, that's when the second or continuous round will start. Lisa?
I have a question more regarding Europe. Like, is it better to search for one work or search for a job on your own?
I got my job on my own. The reason because of that was they were investing in the company I was working at, and then it's like, oh yeah, you're working here when I was working for us. Yeah. But there are, I believe there's some European jobs. I know friends who are working in Switzerland right now. But I think the problem with them is I know Switzerland, some requires this visas, which they want to do because not all are European. But it's up to you. Like there's a lot of jobs available.
In your case, do you find a particular work that you like? Try to find a company that has an office in Europe. A lot of my friends has got jobs in that. In my case, was I can't remember, it was a data company. But yeah, a lot of postings are data company. You have to go find the right people to talk to, which can come.
If you are a U.S. citizen, how would you let your employer know? Do you let them know resume or happy with the job? Is it a matter of the work in your school there, or sorry, was that too much?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure there will be multiple work where I work there. And usually most companies that full-time volunteers, they're prepared to go through the visa process. So you tell them after that, actually don't have to do the visa. You can just go.
If you apply outside Waterloo, they might have to tell them because they're like, oh, you're Canadian, you don't want to do visa. And you're like, well, it's all good. But yeah, it's a Waterloo.
I think people like colors, but never use it that shows oh, we can save some money by not having to talk about making it better.
There was one question back there from a while ago.
Well, talking about cover letters, because if you're applying to two similar jobs in the same company who ask you for cover letters, you just say, oh, well, I'm actually saying.
Yeah.
What do you do in that case?
I have done it. I couldn't tell you how I worked out these obviously because I didn't even get into it. But I don't know, it's kind of hard question to ask because this thing, usually for those jobs, it has to be bigger company that requires cover letters, and usually it's HR who screens it. So I don't think it matters that much. Even if it's the same cover same by the same time, they will know that because they have to require the same requirement. I don't think they're going to go to one.
So personal efforts for different positions.
Yeah, for the position, yes, definitely. But it doesn't matter.
Another question. What happens if I'm interviewing with companies on Waterloo Works and have an external offer that I want to accept?
Oh,
Yeah. So that's fine. My question back would be: is the student a first year or an upper year?
Upper year, I think.
Upper year. Okay. So it's a bit different there, where they would have to let their student advisor know before they enter into the co-op process. To let them know that they want to accept a job outside of Waterloo Works.
And then what happens if it's a first year?
Yeah, so if it's a first year, not way different, but different. So in that case, it's much more flexible. So the first year can balance the work search both inside Waterloo Works and outside of Waterloo Works. The two things to keep in mind are, one, the deadlines. So I mentioned that ranking period at the beginning of March. So if you want to accept a job outside of Waterloo Works, you have to come to tell us, to let us know you want to do that, and or submit what's called a job information form. So it's an e-form, you can find it on the co-op website. It's fairly detailed, so you're probably going to have to work with your employer on that a little bit. Fill it out, and that would be your indication to let us know you want to accept a job. The reason for the deadline is we have to remove you from the process before you go through with the match. Because if you go through the match and you're matched, you're obligated to take that job, and we can't arrange you with the other job.
And what happens if, like he says, what happens if I don't let them know before the process begins and I get the offer during the middle of Waterloo Works?
As long as you're not matched yet, it's okay.
Right.
If
Okay.
you are matched, so I know people that have not like endorsing this, but you can accept the offer outside of Waterloo Works and then tell Waterloo Works, like tell the career center that you like broke their system and they'll be upset and they'll kick you out. You won't be able to use Waterloo Works for a term, 2 terms. It's like pretty bad.
That happens.
Yeah.
Would not recommend.
Sorry.
So, but if you're confident that you can find jobs on your own and you're not engineering and you don't need to go up to graduate, like it's a path you can take.
I think it is somewhere where last term I had enough from Shopify, which is external. And there's a weekend of breaking, and I think my coordinator told me that I have to submit like an official, I guess it was an e-form or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I submitted it the Friday of or the Thursday of,
Okay.
and like that one thing. So as long as you do it, as long as you submit it before like rankings happen.
Before they're open. So once you can see the results of your interviews, it's too late to remove you. Because it's not that we're being horrible mean people, it's just we have to balance the needs of both you guys and employers who get really, really angry when we say, sorry, you actually can't have this student that you spend all this time and effort interviewing. So yeah, before the rankings become available.
Another question. What would be the best course of action if you're fired from a job or the company goes under and can't hire you?
Has that happened to anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's my source.
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately, those things can happen. Obviously, the department will work with you as much as possible to try and salvage that job or the credit for co-op, especially if it's like, if you're fired, yeah, you're probably not getting the credit. But yeah, the company closes if they have to let you go because of funding or those sorts of things. It's unfortunate, but we will do our best to try and salvage that work. It's a case-by-case situation, so it's kind of reviewed one-off.
Keep that in mind too. Your company seems to be not doing very well.
Yeah.
I agree with them. Maybe not a good choice.
And does one still have to pay the co-op fee if they're banned from Waterloo Works for 2 terms?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
No
And I'm
answer.
gonna say yes, probably.
Okay.
So, but I can follow up.
So,
Yeah.
yes. So, I also don't know the answer to that question. But in my case, because I couldn't go on job mine for 2 terms, I just dropped co-op, and then I didn't have to pay the fee. So that worked.
Or write work reports.
I also didn't have to write work term reports.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the logic was that if I can get 2 jobs by myself anyway, I probably didn't need job mine in the first place, which was true. So, I don't know if that's actually useful to you guys.
Unless you're engineering, then you need co-op.
Sorry.
Any engineers, sir?
Yeah, what was it? Engineers?
No, almost half.
CS? First years? Second years? Third years?
Alright, I think we have one question at the back somewhere there. Yeah.
So like for panelists, what's your experience with people contacting like the co-op companies outside of job lines?
About contacting.
Like the companies outside of job lines.
Oh, I can talk so much about that. So I dropped co-op as well. So I had my first internship at Google, and then I returned there the second time. And I was like, well, I'm probably in a good place. And so all the jobs I've gotten since then have been through contacting companies myself. Some of those have been through like meeting people from previous internships and going to like networking events, or just like going to meetups and making friends with people that work in different places. I've also done the thing where you like email a company and say if you're like in the area, so like maybe you're going to visit Toronto, maybe you're just going to SF for the weekend for some reason, and you can be like, hey, I like go to Waterloo and I'm really interested in your company, and all of them know who Waterloo is, which is really cool. Not all of them, but a lot of them, and they would like totally be happy for you to come and like visit their company and tour it and like talk to them, and that's a really good way to make an impression. And I've done it a bunch of times, and that is how I like run my jobs. And what else? One time I messaged someone that worked at Khan Academy and asked him if he wanted to get free dinner at Google, and he said sure. And then I just asked him about how he like started working there. He actually went to Waterloo and he gave me a flow. So that's cool. Yeah, for his that project. So that was really cool. Just like reach out to people, ask questions. If someone works somewhere and you're like really interested in that place, just like ask them about it, get to know about that company, and then like see whether there's like a way that you can kind of like get your application in. I've also cold emailed companies. The place I'm working next term, I just like found a VP engineering online, like his name, and then did like @companyname.com, and then emailed him and was like, hey, you're really great. This company seems cool. I have this experience. Do you take interns? And they're like, we haven't before, but we were thinking of doing it next summer. And then now I have a job. So lots of different things. It takes a lot of work. I use a spreadsheet to like say like I email this person's responding to me, this person's emailing this person is like interviewing with me. Because things get lost. It's not like Waterloo works where there's like deadlines and structure. You have to create the structure first.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that.
It's just like a big process.
I just didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, same situation as Eddie. That I had to find a bunch of my last jobs off of JobMine, or Waterloo works, I guess. But basically, like it is a lot of work. It's a lot more at work than doing it through Waterloo Works. You can do it however much you want and however you want. Like you can go to. I mean, I went to Hackerness a lot. It's like this meetup for January, which is really good. But it takes a lot of energy too to like constantly put yourself out there, and you need to be ready for it because if you underestimate it, then like there's no deadlines like JobMine. You just don't have a job and it's April and you're like, oh shit. so don't do that. Another thing that's important that we didn't quite touch on, like the one thing that is important, is references. So if you know people who work at cool companies, talk to them and get them to refer you, because if their bosses like them and they think that you're a good employee, their bosses will probably listen.
That's important though. Don't blame other people that don't know that you're an employee, because they'll be like, what?
A, those people have to think that you're smart. It helps if you actually are smart. B, those people have to be good because otherwise their bosses won't listen to them. So this is a lot easier if you, again, put yourself out there, talk to lots of people, become friends with lots of people, which is hard because it's Waterloo and everyone's converted. It's hard. But if you do this, then when you talk to people, jobs just like materialize.
Just like that.
Just talk to people. It's so good. Do it.
Alright, so we'll move on to our next segment. There'll be time for questions afterwards. So interviews. How exactly do you guys prepare for interviews? Like what steps you take? Like do you read like CTCI or?
Practicing. Yeah, practicing.
Do you mean like now or in first year?
Go. Yeah, sure.
Is it technical or like general interviews? So I know when I was younger, like grade 10, grade 11, I was really shy in the interview. So talking to people was just like kind of really hard. This is something that's like a trick that I can use to like get out of that. So I went to the mall and basically talked to 100 people and just try to get better at it. That kind of made me extroverted by push. So if you're not like I think with interviews it's a bit weird where some companies really like really strong and extroverted people, while some companies just really want a smart person, which could be both, but like just really want like a smart person who's just like, hey, I know I want to do this code all day every day, which is just great. Not me, but which is great. So if you want to prepare for that and be able to like not be shy when you're in an interview, just go out and just practice. Like if you can go to SOC and talk to random people and just have a conversation going, that's good practice because that's basically what an interview is going to be like. Where you'll be going to a room with one person or two people, and you will know who they are, and you simply start a conversation with them because that's what's going to be the entire interview. Sure, they might ask some technical questions, but the first 10-20 minutes is going to be about you and them, just about money, just about who you are.
Good plug for the CSC. It's a great place where people are talking about technical things, and it's a very like casual, go walking in and out kind of thing. People are always talking at so you just wander in and have a conversation over there.
It stands for computer science.
Oh, yeah, computer science is like this whole area has a whole bunch of people that just like hang out and talk. And so if you want to talk to people about crafty things.
And if you're an engineering group code, this is a good place to be.
I have a second plug. So the Career Center offers mock interviews as well, so definitely a good resource. I think interviews is one of those things sometimes you can have habits that you're not aware that you have, so it's good to have that, not necessarily like the word critique, but a mock interview.
Oh, I think there's engineering mock critique.
Yeah.
Mock interviews this week, next week, what's it? Who's the next song?
There are also people putting on technical interview like practice sessions. I don't know how to tell you information about it, but they're out there. People go around Facebook. I think you can probably find somewhere of like experience every year doing technical interviews. So how I prepare for programming interviews is I go on HackerRank. People also use LeetCode. There's just a bunch of algorithmic questions, and then you have an answer. You run it, you see if it works. Thankfully, LeetCode also has. But they both have test cases to see whether like, actually if you think it's right, but it's not actually right. So that's pretty helpful. Using Kraken as coding interview also has a whole bunch of questions and it explains to you a bunch of the concepts if we don't know them yet, especially if you're in first year, that can be like, really helpful. But don't spend hours and hours and stress out about it, especially if it's really close to interviews. Just like keep it in the back of your mind at all times, and maybe like during co-op, like next term, you can spend a little bit of time preparing while you like actually have free time. And that's like a nice strategy. And then for the like other questions that aren't the coding ones, they're gonna like ask you about your projects or about like things that you'd like to work on technically in the past, or what are your interests? Why are you interested in the company? Make sure you like actually know things about the company and like their values and what they're looking for. They probably have it on their website somewhere, and that's like very helpful for knowing what kind of person they're looking for. Be that person.
And one more thing, since I might look interviews, don't be in a suit. Yeah, please. Like, unless you're going for banking, like investment banking or consulting interviews, which I don't think any of you are, then you should wear a suit, like a full suit or like business formal. But otherwise, I think, like I usually wear a casual dress shirt and jeans, and like casual shirt and shorts.
Some startups literally say they don't care. And they probably actually do care in that if you wear something too formal, they'll judge you.
I think it was one of our interviews. I'm not sure if you were there for the retreat, but one of our recruiters. Someone was wearing a suit with like a tie, and the interviewer just like stopped the interview, told him to take off the tie and the blazer.
You feel more confident. I feel like you should be able to wear whatever you want.
Yeah.
But sadly, you can't.
No, I think the thing with that story was that he wasn't comfortable in it. It's like if you legitimately are super comfortable in the blazer and tie, you'd probably be fine. But you guys probably aren't. Of all the things we stress out about in an interview, what you're wearing should not be in the top third. Like, oh yeah, so you're probably gonna have more than one interview. You're mostly in tech. There's more jobs than people. Are there still more jobs than people? There were. Yeah.
Fucking equilibrium.
We're all very lucky in terms of that.
Okay, so you're gonna have more than one
The
interview.
number,
Okay?
but yeah. Well, you're in good shape.
You're probably gonna have more than one interview. This is good life advice, okay? Learn from your mistakes. Don't do the same thing wrong in like 3 interviews in a row. If you think an interview goes badly, figure out why and try to figure out how to do better at that thing next time.
You might be able to even ask them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's actually really good.
I've done
So
that.
if you want
Yeah.
friendly, I mean, what do you have to lose, right?
Yeah. And like sometimes I do really like it because it's like it shows that you care about.
Yeah.
You care about learning. And love is
Growth mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, email, like don't email. Actually, no, I've done it. Like I think my first year I fucked up. No, so my first year I screwed up an interview really badly, and like I think I just like walked out and I was like, alright, that was shit. And then walked back in. I just like asked him like, hey, give me advice. Like I know I probably lost the job. But what do you think? And actually ended up getting an offer somehow. There's a technical question, like, there's a technical interview, I know shit. like, this is like first year, you need to know, well, like, how to like set up a like list, like, yeah. No, but then I think when I asked him, he's like, oh yeah, this you screwed up this, you should go home and study this. Our company really values this, and then when I didn't take the offer, but like what ended up happening was he explained how like because I came back to ask, that's showed learning and how I wanted to go, and that's what the company values. Like a lot of companies do.
You check those skills in an interview too. If they're like talking about something and you're like, oh, I don't know what that is, and you tell them and you're like, oh, actually, like, you don't know what you're talking about, but I would love to learn more about it. Then you have a conversation about that, and you show them how you're eager to learn, and maybe you show them how quickly you can learn that thing. And then now you're like showing how talented you are,
And
even
like-
though you don't actually know anything about what you're talking about.
And I think like the fake it till you make it works to some point. Like if it's a technical thing, don't fake it too much. Don't be afraid to ask them for help because they really do like that. Right? Like if you're like stuck on a question, you're like, I know this, but I don't understand this. They'll most likely help you because they're not trying to test. Most of these people aren't trying to test to know how to like do it, but they're trying to see how you do it. And that's the first chapter of practice learning.
Tech changes all the time. There's always new things that are going to come out that you need to learn that no one that's in the field knows what it is. So it's way more important that you can learn something than just like know everything. And it's impossible because there's way too many things and tech to know all of them. None of you have done
Yeah, like one thing about character coding interviews, like as these books come out, right, like people start studying them, and then like the job market adapts, right? Like no one's gonna ask the same question that's in the book that everyone reads in every interview because everyone's just gonna get it right. So like just being able to adapt, as Eddie said, is like really important because like there's never gonna be a single book that you could read and then ace every interview. Just being able to learn and build forward when you're gonna fail is just a really important skill to have.
And I think going back to that, is anyone going for non-software companies? I mean, like non-software jobs, like electrical or like business? Okay, cool. Oh yeah, cool.
One.
Two. Okay, so like there really isn't a practical coding interview for hardware jobs. The best way for that is just show your projects. Like actually bring your project to the interview and just show it. Because I think that itself just shows how you do it. Like, what's that? Yeah, I used to be ECU. Yeah. Such assistants. Okay, cool.
So there's been a lot of focus on like acing the technical stuff from all of us, but I actually think that like once you're beyond a certain technical threshold, it's more of a like, are you a cool person? Do I actually want to work with you? Because they're not going to hire you if you're like super brilliant, but they don't want to hang out, or they don't think working with you would be pleasant. Or maybe some companies would, but yeah.
But do you want to work there? They don't want to hire cool people?
Yeah. So it's really, really important to be sociable and be like an actual person, like with interests other than like, you know, writing the algorithm. I don't know, like the mall thing is really good. That would be good practice. What I did was I just like tried to convince myself insult that the interviewer was my best friend, which actually was that guy at the time. And I just like knew that I wouldn't be able to talk to him like a normal person if I thought he was a stranger, and it ended up working, and now I just have more social skills. Yeah, just like try to not be a person. Right? That's pretty bad.
You can be excited about the company and about meeting someone that works there. Be like, wow, company X is so cool. The people that work there must be great. I'm just like really excited to like talk to someone that works there. It'll be like so interesting. And I'll get to ask them, oh, you should prepare questions to ask. Be like, oh, like why do you like working here? Or like why did you decide to join this company? And like stuff like that. Like just sort of like ask, like get to know them or get to know the company and show that you're interested. But if you can keep that in mind the whole time, it's like, this is so cool. I'm talking to someone that works at this company that I want to work at. And they're like so interesting. And this question they just asked me, like it's really hard to know the answer, but it's kind of cool. And if you can like try to keep that mindset of like, oh, this is so like neat and interesting. That's like, exactly the kind of person to want to hire.
I think we could both agree on this. We're going to throw a coin at you guys. If you're interviewing Shopify, ask about the culture. Like, I think that's a really easy one.
I don't think Mulder cares.
No, if you, well, like, for the first interview, yeah. Just Jen or Lauren will ask.
Ask us about
Back
it.
to Shopify.
Yeah, just, if you about your Shopify, yeah, it's just yeah, like, it's because that's what they emphasize
Is this
a lot.
specific password?
Yeah.
We're not going to turn this into a Shopify talk.
That helps. Also, when they ask you to talk about yourself at the beginning, like also don't spend too long on that because if there's technical questions coming up and you like end up talking about yourself for 10 minutes, it's like really sucks. Even if it's a good conversation and the interviewer is into it, so like be aware of the time. Usually 45 minutes means there's a technical part to it.
I remember during my year, a lot of the questions that popped up was, how do you ask about salary? I think that's a really big question. So what are the work?
Just salary.
Some of them do.
That's how we're looking at it.
Yeah, because remember that was like a really big concern from that
Right.
one.
It's like your only chance to talk to them.
Yeah. So like, I think for first year, I want to say don't.
Yeah, they might hurt your chances,
Yeah.
but you're probably not going to be able to negotiate.
Like, if you don't want the job, ask and then like bullshit it or something. I don't know.
I'm convinced it would hurt your
I
chances.
think it is.
I mean, like, it's not a secret that they're paying you, right?
But that's like,
But like the number isn't going to change, it's just they're telling you about it.
yeah, then it's like it
But
kind
then
of
maybe they think that you care more about the money than the
Exactly.
job.
I guess.
It's just stupid that it's taboo, but like it is.
I think can we say that for startups don't ask? Actually, no, for startups maybe. It's a hard question.
Try it for a half and then go to the other half and then see whether one of them gives you more
A/B test. It might take a while.
For a big company, actually just go on Glassdoor or something.
Yeah.
Like your mom numbers is probably
Glassdoor is really accurate.
Yeah, and we're asking previous interns. That works.
And sometimes they'll just tell you. Like I didn't ask any of my interviews in first year, and some of them was like, oh, by the way, we're going to be paying you this much.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, cool, thanks for telling me. Very helpful.
If you want to be like really like sly about it, just be like, so is there like what's the compensation package? Be like low key sly, then like or trying to be like, hey, is there like would you provide housing? Or I don't know, like I've never really had to ask.
I hate it when they say we pay competitively.
Yeah.
When you are interviewing outside Waterloo birds, you get this nice thing where they give you an offer, and in that offer they tell you how much they're going to pay you, and then you get like time after that to like think about it. So that kind of sucks if you don't get to have that. They should have like Waterloo birds, like have how much they're paying you.
Yeah, so
Offer.
it has been added as an optional field to job description. So now when employers fill them out, we have the option to put it right in there, and we do encourage it. We can't force them to do it, but that's a change from Jobline for sure.
All the knowledge and technical stuff, but I was always of the opinion of suits. Really, that's wrong. But could someone else emphasize?
What program are you in? What
I'm something.
Okay.
Not suits, but like, not suits, but like,
I think what
Your
Jordan-
interviewers are going to be wearing hoodies.
yeah. This is never brought up in like a CTV here.
I think what Jordan's wearing is pretty nice.
t-shirt.
Exactly.
So Smash Bros.
But that's a good conversation starter where it's like, oh, what's a Smash Club? Like,
So you play Smash Bros. You can go Smash Bros.
If you feel uncomfortable wearing a t-shirt because you're not sure, you can also just wear something that's like kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like something that you would wear. I think it's something like to church or like I don't know what people wear to church. Something like sort of nice that you would wear to like maybe like a nice dinner, but like not a formal dinner, just like something nice. Like for women, like a pretty shirt, but not like a t-shirt, but like maybe like a blouse. I think is the word for it. And then like nice jeans that are like I think dark jeans.
what do you guys think about wearing a competitor's shirt? Is that too alpha? I've seen people do that all day.
In your interview, if you get an interview with a company, they have the option, and if the company feels really strongly about you not wearing a suit, or they want to like be very clear on what they will tell you to where they'll put it in the interview book. Cool.
Yeah, if it's not what you're comfortable with, then they'll tell you specifically.
Also, wear something that you feel comfortable in. If you're going in and like in some particular t-shirt and you're like worried about it, then like that's worse. Like just wear something that you can feel most confident in knowing what you know about what you think you're looking for and go with that.
Unless it's a suit. If you're comfortable in suits, still don't wear it. Because they will judge you negatively. I've seen this.
Yeah. But other than that, I think wear something that you feel comfortable and like confident in.
Okay. So I had a question about demonstrating your projects. So for example, if you built some applications in the past and you wanted to show them your work, is it ever good to actually bring samples of that and show them? Don't you? No, if it's software.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. As long as employee actually asked me to bring, it was a game position, so asked me what games I bought, so I followed it.
It was really cool if you can like just start talking about it and be like, hey, here's my phone, there's this app. What's harder to say about tricky because it's harder.
What a laptop.
Yeah.
Sometimes bring a bag with you, and then if you're just talking about it, you can be like, hey, you want to see it? I have my laptop there. And then see how they react.
I mean, they have to go to like 20 interviews a day, bring something new. It's very refreshing. Like, I would love to see it.
Have pity for them. Imagine like sitting in a room having to be someone back to back for like the whole day. Oh, if you can choose an earlier interview slot, do that.
Yeah, or one after lunch. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Our recruiters have always said they're happiest right after lunch.
Yeah. So I
Those are high level talks.
Oh yeah. Okay. You guys are lucky you're here. So after, so the interview after lunch or the second interview in the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
I feel the first one's always really unorganized because they're all like scrambling to get shit together. And then the second one's just like, oh, weird. Like the first one got fucked, but.
Don't take the last one.
Yeah.
They've probably already seen someone that they like, and they're like packing up and ready to leave. So don't do that.
Yeah.
And monitor your email because if you try to get your slot too late, they're probably going to be one last. And it'll be the last one.
What do you say if because if they're asking, oh, what other jobs are you interested in? Or what other interviews?
That's well, most of the time when that happens, they are thinking about how much to pay you. I usually answer honestly, it doesn't hurt. But also it could be because that they might have some other position that might just say it wasn't the one I applied for, they might review later and that happens anymore.
If it's off deadline, tell them that deadline's for those days as well. Because that really makes it doesn't like light a fire under them, but like it just tells them, hey, this is what's happening. I want to work for you, but I need you to be this deadline.
I think that was really sorry. I think that's really good advice in general. Is like be honest, it doesn't hurt. Like 99%, maybe even 100% of things in interviews are, if you lie, they probably either know or like suspect it. Like they're asking that because they want to know what else you're interested in, or because they want to know how much to pay you. So I don't see why you lie about that. Also, if they ask you about your weaknesses, don't lie about that either. They're trying to see if you can work past your weaknesses. So tell an actual weakness and how you actually try to do better at it. Not like, oh, I'm too punctual.
And if you're still working on it and aren't perfect yet, that's like also fine. Like, as long as you have ideas about how you're working on it. Also, maybe you shouldn't ask that question instead.
Yeah, I agree.
Who do you apply to and who to interview you?
Prepare for both.
Oftentimes it'll involve both actually. Like, or sometimes, like I know some companies will have like either a technical screen or even like the first interview will be behavioral, and then there'll be like another round that's technical or behavioral, or vice versa. So.
This is somewhat unrelated, but if you can schedule your own interviews, if you're not in co-op. Schedule the ones that you're not as interested in first, and then use those for practice, and then the ones you really want end. And then by the time you get there, you'll have a lot of experience. Unfortunately, it's not always but if you ever end up in that situation, that's a good tip.
So also from my experience, applying for a CS related job, for sure introducing have at least some technical components. So usually what they'll do is that it won't be all technical, but they usually won't specifically reserve any time for the bigger questions. So usually they'll just be walking through the interview, and they won't ask the first question right away. They'll say, "Hi, how are you doing? What's your name?" And they might like introduce the company and what they do, and you guys can have some time to talk with it. And then they'll be like, "Okay, let's move on to the first question." And usually they'll be mostly technical.
Another common thing for companies to do as well in the interview is just literally to like take your resume and then run through like say your past work experience or like just asking things from it. So one important thing to do when preparing for interviews is just to know your resume really well, know everything that's on it.
Don't lie.
Yeah, a lot.
You put a project on it that you only partly worked on, be able to still talk about it and the things that it does, or else it'll be really awkward when they ask you about things and you don't know how to answer it. Also, you copy code from somewhere else to use in your project, and they bring up the code and ask you to explain how it works. Make sure that you can answer that. I literally talked to someone who interviewed someone and asked them about the code, and they had no idea what it did. So, yeah, don't be that person.
Yeah, I mean, he said this, but they don't usually ask like actual behavioral questions. They just talk to you like a normal human being for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And
They're testing your behavior still.
Oh, they're
Like,
watching you. But they're not saying like, give me your 3 biggest strengths and why. It's just like, are you a normal person?
Yeah, sometimes an entire interview will be about that, just completely just a conversation. I mean, it won't be common, but like sometimes employers will do that. They'll just want to really get to know you and assess you based on that kind of long conversation you had with that employer.
I don't know how far you can take this or maybe how detailed you can be with it, but like think about the like best to average interviews that you've had. Like, what are some of the technical questions that you can ask and how to go? If you can.
I think for a technical question, I was just also kind of vague, but the these 2 categories I'll ask is either graph problem or does involve dynamic programming.
Those happen. Okay, if you're in first year, they most likely will not ask you that.
They definitely won't ask dynamic programming.
Because they know that you haven't learned it yet. And unless you're applying. Okay, it depends what jobs you're applying to. If you're applying to jobs that generally hire 3rd or 4th years, and you just like want to put your name in the bucket, then they might ask you those questions. And then you're just like, well, I don't know those things. You're like, okay, then that's that. But if most of the people that are looking to hire first year will not be asking you jobs. Because they know that you haven't learned it yet.
Yeah, when you're in first year and like you are interviewing with a company like that, like I've interviewed with a company like that in first year 1 or 2 times, and sometimes they'll be good enough to like actually tell you beforehand in an email that like, yeah, this will involve like 4 years CS stuff, 4 years CS stuff.
You get the little list of concepts. It's so nice. Some of my favorite interviews have been like ones that start off with little smaller problems. They'll be like, solve this thing. I'll be like, oh, okay, and I know how to do that. And then they'll like add another layer to it. And they'll be like, well, what about this situation? Or like, what if it becomes a little bit more complicated this way? And then they just like keep adding things. And it sort of like keeps going until the interview finishes. And it's very much a back and forth thing. And it's like sort of brainstorming. And it's not obvious that they're like, here's a hard problem, find the answer. It's like, let's explore the idea of like this kind of technology and like what it could do. But I'm being very vague, but like, it was really cool. And stuff like that. Interviewing, so being interviewed is hard, but also interviewing is hard. So if you have a good interviewer,
So my friend had an interview like that, where like this interview asked him to like how many ways he could reverse a linked list. He got up to like 9.
face.
Like, as it progressed, the solutions just kept getting worse and worse, and like full of like n factorials. Yeah.
So, were you asking like specific questions?
Well, that's why I said I don't know how because it can be.
Well, I mean, like, if you come, like, to me or probably anyone here later, they can give you, like, specific
Yeah,
examples.
describing the whole question.
I don't want to get into it here because the interesting ones are long to explain.
Yeah.
But they're interesting, I swear. Yeah.
I have a question. How is writing cover letter different from writing an application essay to a university?
I would say that it's in many ways similar. So you're trying to like show them you can write, and you want to sound interesting. But oftentimes I would say, especially for applying for a job, like writing a cover letter is a bit of a misstep. Usually what people do is they'll tell a story about themselves and why that makes them interesting in the company. So I'm sure like recruiters see these all the time. So it really depends on the recruiter. Like you might have to write a story that clicks with that recruiter.
Well, there's also some admission officers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas a different recruiter might think, oh, what the heck is this? I don't really care what you're talking about.
Right for your audience.
It might be less formal depending on the university and depending on the company.
There is another question. I think I'm confident to answer the harder technical questions, but how can I even get a chance to be asked for these questions?
Yeah. Like you want to have a resume that will stand out enough so that you get the interview, right? Is that what you're saying? Like you like I know people that are really good at algorithms, they don't have any side projects and like really work experience, and it's hard to get to the point where you can get to the interview that you would pass.
Will there be some like should I submit my cover letter if there's a situation like I don't have any work experience, so should I still submit my cover letter if the company don't want that?
They don't want to cover letter?
And some companies don't require that.
Only write it if you're very excited about the company and you can make it a really good resume.
So for the other question you asked, like you want to have a chance to ask about the harder question, right? Yeah. One thing that I did was like I wrote about the competition, the algorithm competition I've done, and achievement got. I actually got harder questions because like, hey, I solved this. So here's like my normal questions, and here's the harder one, taking one from there. So yeah, maybe do that, but do it if you have what it takes. You just shooting yourself out of the field if you don't have that.
So like, I don't know if like maybe like surprised me, but like I'm reading like any programming job on Waterloo works. And I ask for like C#, C, C++, Python scripting, RCOS.
Okay. You need to have school, just apply to it.
And if you don't have the experience, like don't worry. Like, so say you ask me C# and you know C++, you can learn C# pretty fast if you know one obstruction program, so like, yeah, like don't be afraid to apply jobs that you're not 100% of the fit.
Most of the time when they make this list, they don't expect people to apply to fit all the things in the list, which is really dumb. It's just dumb. Or like they should like say like these things would be nice but aren't required, and then list them. But they don't do that. That's what they mean. If there are ones that fit really well with your skills, definitely apply to those. But then don't let the list further.
Yeah, so like, no, like don't be afraid that a job is too overqualified for you. Like Trump is perfect. So like, yeah, like, don't be afraid to apply for the higher level jobs. But just note that because it is higher level, it will be more like people test you on it, or they might like expect it.
But you're going to show them your resume. So like, they'll see what your skills are. They interview you. Then they like said, okay, we asked for these things. You said that you have these skills. We're going to interview you anyways. You go on to that point, and then like they know where you're at.
And I think that one of the best quotes I've ever heard was you can correct me. but they interview you not to see, not so they choose you for an interview because they know you're qualified, but they just want to see who you are. I think that's like one of the best ways I can put it.
It varies from company.
Yeah.
Some of them will just like interview tons and tons of people and not pass like a lot of them, which is a huge waste of resources, but it'll vary. Yeah.
Also, like, be willing to apply for jobs you don't think you're qualified for in general, because if you end up with a job that you're already fully qualified for, you're probably not going to learn as much. So, like, yeah.
What about applying for a job? So, for example, say there's a job about going backwards, but you don't know anything, but you like to learn. Is it a good reason to apply for that job?
Do it.
So, like, C is one of the languages that the company requires to work hard skill. Then how good should it be? What's the level that expected you to start with?
My general rule of thumb is you know everything on Learn X and Y. So if you go on Google and just search Learn X and Y, it's a website that just teaches code with code. You just know everything. Like if you could like basically write solve any algorithms question, which generally is everything on Learn X and Y within that language, then you probably know enough. Other than that, they might specify what they'll be using the language for. Like if it's game development or something like that, there's probably some specific libraries they're using. Or if it's like a data science role, maybe they want you to be really familiar with the scientific computing environment in Python, like NumPy, scikit-learn, stuff like that. But for the most part, yeah, if you can do the algorithms part with that language, that's just a good baseline for like where you should be at.
Keep in mind also, we just said that you can apply to jobs even if you don't have any skills listed.
Yeah.
So if you already have the skill, but you're not sure whether you're enough, you should still apply anyways. Questions? Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have maybe like a rule of thumb for what you should be able to do in a language before it should appear on your resume? Is it like biz buzz, or is it like free language? What level would it be before?
So like depends on the language, and then one thing I want to put is like a lot of time when companies actually know some language, they are also interested in the relevant background and the application of those languages. For example, the company demands C, chances that they are more interested in low-level stuff. So not just know the language, knowledge is one part, but also know where it's being used, right? And especially if you know the company shops, then great. Maybe it's dealing with hardware, it does the job, has to write the driver. So all that kind of thing, it's very specific. Just knowing the language might not be enough.
My general rule of thumb for if I put a technology or a language on my resume is have I used it to do something in a project, or have I used it at a job, and is that on my resume, and then I put it down. Otherwise, I don't. That's my first thing.
You can also put like, if you did a project for like a hackathon and you used a thing, but you like only use the technology that one time, you can just write it on your resume in that section. And they'll like say you used it once in hackathon, and then it's like very obvious what context you use different things in. I actually took the languages I know off my resume, which I don't know whether I recommend this, but then it's very clear, like I use these languages in these places, and then the recruiter can see from there.
Some people actually do.
Never say you're advanced or experienced in it, because if the person that created the language works there,
Expert in Python.
Yeah. And then you go and apply for Dropbox or yeah, but yeah, what some people do is like I don't know if this is good. I don't do it, but I think it might be good. I don't know. But what some people do is they break down their like skill section on the resume into like proficient and like familiar or various things like that. That kind of break it down to how familiar they are with the technologies or languages. And then that way there's at least some discrimination for the person reading it and see or gauge like how good you are with that technology or language. So that's also another thing to think about.
You were probably wondering like at what point would it be like proficient? And it's probably like if you feel like if they ask you to do something, you either know how to write in that language or you have a clear idea of like what you would look up to figure out how to do that thing. Like you can like handle your own for the most part for that language. Like you have an idea like see compile error, you know like what that error is, how to fix it, or you know how to fix it.
Also, try not to put on Windows or Word on this. I see a lot of people do it. Just take a
that a lot. Where that you guys have that 2-column latex template, right? And then they put latex in like, and it's just like, okay.
Oh yeah.
It's a trigger.
So as we get better at programming, you'll care about individual languages less and less. So this will become less and less of a relevant problem. But
Well,
for now,
depends, unless you're like a person that like.
okay, if you're like a super low level geek,
Or if you're like really
Yeah.
into like working off one particular thing, like you're an expert in it. Well, not an expert, very good at
most
one thing.
people here will not do that. Though.
Probably true.
But yeah, like you should probably know what differentiates it from the alternatives if you're gonna put on your resume. Like if you put both Python and Ruby, you should probably know like how the way you're meant to think in Python and the way you're meant to think in Ruby differ. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like no one in the world knows everything about the language. So like there isn't a point where someone can be like, you said you're proficient in Python, but you're not because you don't know this. So it's just like if you think you're proficient, you can put it, and you like, what are they gonna do? Like nothing. It's fine.
Question. So this reply to what someone said about the latex one. One column or two column for
No, I think the reference I was trying to make was like a lot of first years and second years I realized had.
No, but he's asking like a question.
Oh, sorry.
It's just
Wait,
inspired
what
by
was?
your
Oh, are you asking if it should be one or
one columns resumes or two columns?
Okay, so I strongly believe resume should be one column. Because just from what I see, like the best people, when you really search up the resumes, like the strongest resumes are always one column.
Like
In my experience.
that's something sexy too.
Yeah. The reason why they're all on a column is because the best people tend to have a lot of work experience in projects, and well, columns are really good for that. But if you don't have like a crap ton of work experience in projects, then you need some filler. And in my experience, 2-column resumes can sometimes be actually better for filler because you can like have, I don't know, you can have some sections that other people who like do not have room for these sections, you can put these on, like I don't know, like awards. Like it's not that these sections are bad, it's just that some people, when they have a ton of projects and work experience, they get rid of these sections. Yeah, so like sometimes a 2-column resume can work if you need, like you want to put like awards or areas of like interest and stuff like that, like another skill section, and then have like work experience and projects on the other side. Sometimes it's better to do it that way if you want to like have a bunch of different sections. So the thing that can happen when you have a 1-column resume is sometimes these small sections that you might have in your 2-column resume have really short lines, and so when you take them up on a 1-column resume, they'll occupy like half one side of the page and like leave a bunch of white space on the other side, so it won't really be an efficient use of your like resume real estate skills.
They both look decent. If you feel like it communicates what your skills are, that's probably fine.
Yeah, and it's case by case. Just like ask someone good to critique it. You're not gonna lose a job because it's 1 column. Like it's fine.
I'm just gonna like jump in here about because this post was actually made in the resume Facebook group.
You also join that.
Yeah, it's on Facebook group. So basically, you want to avoid 2 columns because sometimes the formatting gets screwed up. So employers, what they do is they sort of like they like parse some of them. They use a bot or some sort of like a software that parses the information. So when it's 2 columns, it just gets screwed up.
It gets messed up.
It gets messed up.
It's really hard to read PDFs.
Wrong order. Yeah.
With text, it's just like the way that PDFs are made is really annoying to parse. So yeah, then it like can't read your sentences. Companies shouldn't use bots to your resume, but if they do, you might not get through because it's not very hard.
Wait, what if I make my resume?
GG.
Open CV.
OCR.
Do you guys recommend tailoring your resume for particular jobs at all, or do you just use the same one for most of them?
You have a lot of experience, and some of it is much more relevant than some things than others. Like basic
I have 2 versions, one for general software, one for data science, but I don't do much beyond that.
Yeah, I kind of do it based on like fields. So I want the software which is like software stuff. One for consulting and one for business.
Yeah, when I was in first year, I was kind of like a dichotomy of like two different things, like software and data science, and like I kind of had equal experience and skills for both. So I just made 2 resumes and just applied to some with one and some with the other. And then like you'll find out as you do more co-ops, you tend to just naturally end up doing more co-ops in one area, unless you specifically try and branch out. Because like the thing is, if you do a co-op, if you're good at A and B when you first apply, and then you get a co-op in A, then like your next co-op will be more fun to be in A because you already have that extra experience in A. But yeah, if that's like multiple resumes for different industries, if that's what you want.
Are there any other live stream questions or is that you're there?
Your chat's pretty dead at this point.
Let's add a question from the survey earlier because we're already kind of in the general Q&A session because we got out of the interviews topic long ago. Another question is, how do you get county jobs in big name companies and reputed startups? What kinds of activities should I prioritize?
Don't prioritize things. Okay, actually, it's very helpful for buffing your resume, but it's not always helpful for learning a lot. I've heard a lot of stories of people that have worked at Google and have not had great experiences, but it's definitely great for getting other jobs. That doesn't answer the question, but just saying. Wait, what am I the only one that It's the same for like other companies. Like you want to have.
How to get college jobs, or how to get
Just keep working hard, college job comes to you.
Like it's the same for like a lot of other companies. Like have side projects, like show like your passion in the field. Like have some work experience. Probably a lot of them want you to have previous work experience already, and get lots of people to look at your resume. Get lots of people to like give you advice about how to like move forward in your career. And then do those things, and then you'll probably. You have like 6 co-ops, right? So if you like if you work hard to do like the right things at each like stage, it's very likely that you'll get the kind of job that you want by the end. Because you'll have lots of experience and you'll know this whole process and like what the right things to do and back.
Yeah. Also for big tech companies, you can almost definitely expect to be doing like albums in the interview at some point. Like it might not be a first interview if that's behavioral, but like usually for most big tech companies, there's like an algorithm stage structure.
All right. Speaking of like side projects, how do you? Okay, so during your first year, what side? So how many side projects do you guys do, and how do you guys like balance that with school?
And there's also this related question here. If I had no side projects, no website, low marks only in the mid-80s, and only know how to code in Racket.
Just say low marks in the 80s.
Yeah, that was the worst part. I was happy with it.
What should I prioritize doing in the remaining 5 days before?
Pray to your God.
Honestly, if you have 5 days, you probably just want to work on doing whatever you can to make yourself feel confident. Because the actual improving your skills thing might not.
And QA jobs. Yeah. QA jobs are a great way to actually learn and also like just jump into a tech company. I know a lot of people who didn't know any coding, didn't know what like Java or JavaScript was. The QA is a great way to get started and then go up on that. And if you really like QA, I know of friends who like started with QA and really enjoyed it, and they became like QA masters, and they're working for QA at like Apple. So
For the thing about side projects, I personally have gone the route of like in first year I want to optimize getting a good job, so I focused on working on like small side projects, and usually they were in between terms. So like during winter break I would do something, and maybe like during reading week I like worked on something. And then eventually now at this point, I try not to do side projects just to get hired because they already have work experience. I would much rather spend my time at university doing like clubs or like anything unique to Waterloo that I can. I can program and work on projects for like the rest of my life, and I can only like do particular activities at Waterloo now. So I think that it kind of depends where you're at. If you're earlier in your work, I would definitely say that it's like because they have got some experience and they knew some people, and then they got work experience and then others. So don't feel like you need to throw your life away, because it's really stressful being in tech and feeling like you spent all your time doing 10 things. That's just, I mean, unless you really, really like tech and don't want to do anything else in your life, like, go ahead. But otherwise, like, I would definitely recommend doing anything in your life.
Yeah, so I mean, I really strongly agree with like not spending all your time on tech stuff. Like there's this really gross culture where everyone thinks you should be like your main passions are like data structures. Like there's so much other cool stuff. It's like, okay. And so like maybe some side projects, you guys are first year, a lot of you probably don't have side projects. There's probably something that's not tech that you care about, I hope. So find a way to like write some code that has to do with something that you like, and then employers will see that you give a shit, which is really good. And employers will see that you care about something that's not tech. Really good for proving that you're a real person.
Even your professors want you to do things other than school.
Really?
Yep.
Are you engineering?
Yep.
But yeah, like it really proves to employers that you care if you have like something, even if it's tiny. And it just shows that you care about tech and you have a life outside of tech. And that's like really good.
Another thing is that side projects don't have to take a long time. A lot of the projects I did took a couple, like, if any of you taken like Math 135 and like we were in RSA, and I wrote a bracket program, and like that's RSA, and it took like a weekend, but it was fun. And then I like had a little project to put on my resume. So like you can find little things that aren't going to keep your whole life, but still, like, or you can go to a hackathon, that's like one weekend, and then you have a little project on your resume. So finding opportunities to do that.
Oh yeah, that's a super good point. Don't think that a side project is this like super long thing that you like maintain and it's like a lot of work. I have side projects that I did in like a day. It's fine. Just care about it. They can tell.
Question from the internet.
What do you do if the company misrepresents themselves and what they were? Wait, what do you do if the company misrepresents themselves and what work they want you to do in the interview process? And once you get hired, you're doing some really boring tasks.
Sucks.
I
mean, it happens.
Try to figure out what the task will be during the interview process. Like that's where the actual idea of when I tried.
Ask so many questions.
Yeah, like just ask the questions. That's when I asked the salary question that I was talking before. Because in the job posting it seemed really cool. In the interview it was like, oh, this sounds like manual labor. And that's when I asked about the salary so they could like tell me off. It's gonna be a hard decision, and I'm sure she could talk more about that, but like, yeah.
Sometimes it will seem really great, and you're gonna ask a lot of questions, and they'll even like say you can work on like this particular project, and it's gonna be really great, and you get there, and then it's like not what they promised you. And I've heard of this happening to people, and like, or maybe you like just didn't know what you wanted, and then you got there and you realized it's definitely not what you wanted. I think there's like a couple things you can do. You can try to figure out if there is something that you're interested in that you can like convince them to let you do. Or maybe you work really hard to something you're not interested in and you make it very clear to your manager that like you want to do X thing. If there's any way for me to do this thing, like please let me do that. Another way to cope is find things outside of work that make you happy and meet people and go do other things with all your free time in the evenings so you don't have to do homework and get through the workday and get through the term and then try your hardest not to like to figure out what kind of questions to ask and what things to care about and how to not have to.
And don't forget about PD. Yeah, don't forget PD. When you do co-op, you'll have to do an online course. Don't fuck it up.
It really sucks. Don't do it.
Yeah, people
like it really sucks to like have to make a PD failure.
Yeah, like people actually fail. Like,
I think one of those things where you remember about it and you like ace it or you forget about it and then you go like, or you can drop like co-op.
Another question. How do you search for jobs that you know you can get as a safety net, like keywords, criteria that you can enter into the search on Waterloo Works that helps you?
QA jobs are often easier to get, although not always. I applied to QA jobs and when we didn't get.
Oh, help desk.
Help.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It depends on your skills. If you have some particular skills that you know that you have, you can try to find one that seems to parallel about those things. Or if you're like really interested in a particular thing, then you can like show them that you're really interested in that. I mean, that's already like nice because you're actually interested in it. But that actually often helps.
So it's a safety net and handle sync for continuous. But for the first one, I'll say don't risk it. There's tons of jobs in the continuous one. You
That's
have
true.
to start yourself at first.
And don't like underestimate yourself. Like sometimes you just will apply to like a bunch of things like that are safe and you're not interested in. Then you just have a bajillion interviews. And they're like, that's not fun. I know that you're all like, wow, a bajillion interviews, that sounds great. But when it actually happens and you have interviews for things that you care about and then also a whole bunch for ones that you don't.
And midterms.
And midterms. It really sucks.
Also, you just end up writing those about 3 times on the same day.
Oh,
I actually did that.
Oh, also the you can't actually search quality assurance in Waterloo Works. It'll eliminate quality assurance into quality and assurance, and then search quality and then search assurance, and then join the result, or you need the results, and then get them back to you.
Yeah. Wait, are we allowed to say bad things about Waterloo Works?
Constructing feedback.
Yeah. You know, right?
There's something that's like, yeah, we need to know.
Yeah, you should be able to actually add quotes and search for like a direct term rather than like having it eliminate spaces and search for English terms.
Okay.
So you should be able to put quotes around terms.
Right, what's the question? Yeah, and also for entry-level jobs, search, like, I think there's in the filter is a junior filter. Right? Yeah, you just put that.
Oh yeah, because they're looking for people with your experience.
Yeah,
So then
it's generally
That's the
expected.
best way, yeah. That's
Also, if it doesn't say junior on it, but you are a junior, but you're really interested in the job, still fun. Just don't have to be on the list.
So in the job descriptions, they always list which programs are targeted. But for example, say I have experience in mechanical engineering, doing like computational fluid dynamics, and I want to apply for a particular job that is doing software development, but doesn't target software engineering. Is it still okay to apply for that job?
Lots of people apply for the coding jobs because they're more of them. In the coding field.
How many of you have websites on Google Health?
Let's raise our hand.
Who is the website?
Like, it's underdeveloped. Like it looks, okay, so like, it looks nice, and I'm like, oh, I don't really want this, the server's too expensive. We're using those. Okay, so I'm
GitHub pages.
Okay, listen, so as a first year, I was like, all right, how do I make, so I made a website, and it's like, how do I help this website, because I don't know shit about servers. I was like, oh, GoDaddy, like, I've seen so many of those ads. So I ended up paying $200 for and then like a week after, a friend tells me GitHub's free, and I'm like, oh, fuck. So, I know! Why did you pay listen, I was a first year. Don't use GoDaddy unless you're like an actual backend. Like, listen,
No, even then, when you
yeah, no.
Anyway, the actual.
It was
I think that websites can be helpful. My name is really unique, so if you like Google my name, all you find is things about me, which is like kind of weird, but also kind of helpful. So if someone searches my name, then like they will find my website and then they can find information about me. And like I know that like earlier today, someone was like, "Oh, you're gonna like work at Dribble lecture? Like, how do you know that?" He's like, "Oh, look at your website."
Our website is actually really cool, and you guys should check it out. Google her. Wait, people know how to spell it. Probably not.
DVY space KASSIR.
Everyone's writing it down. Holy shit.
Oh, it's on there. Checking out like the auto
Bookmark?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, what's up?
Is it Castorate? No, never mind. Maybe.
I think I made that website first year, or maybe like after first year.
I'm just getting German results, yeah.
Hey.
I should learn how to build a website. I just have a blog.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, blogs are fine if you actually do a website. Plus, writing cool tech blogs are really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you medium articles?
Oh, yeah, media articles too.
I think they're fun.
If you make something and you're excited about it, you should write about how you made it and make a blog post. Like getting good at talking about what you do. Okay, here's a huge plug. The thing I worked on last term, I made a blog post about it, and then it got published yesterday. And it's viral.
It's a really good blog.
It's like on top hack news today, and it got like hundreds of views and like It's pretty cool. It was like the most coolest thing I've ever worked on, and now everyone needs to know about it. So pretty good.
The chat wants to know your website. Also, they like your turtleneck.
Thank you. Are our names in the Facebook event?
I don't know.
Type it in the chat.
Yeah, put it on the Facebook.
It is my first name and my last name.com.
Okay. Well, they're gonna put it on the Facebook events.
Why not .ca? Why not both, guys?
Why not both?
IO.
Can you do .com,
Is there a dot to scrub? This is a good question.
All right. So I think we'll also close up there.
We were targeting about 9:30, so we're a little over, and I guess we should close now. And thank you to all the panelists for being here for this long and answering all these questions.
When you're all old and wise, do this and help other people.
Yeah, and good luck to everyone on new words.
And feel free to come up and ask us questions unless any of you want to leave.
I mean, I thought it would even
You only have a